Who's going to save you? You are. Okay? And I want you to remember that, because that's just your cosmetics. Like, that's not a big focus, but I still, use those things on a daily basis. Imagine putting lead in your mouth every single day while you brush your teeth. That makes no sense. So, oh, there's my sponge. So I want to talk to you about my sponge. And I was going to hand out a little sponge, but my wife's like, that's really dumb. But I'm going to do it anyway. So imagine I have a vat right here, like just a big clear container. And this is you, based on all the chemicals that you've been exposed to your entire life. And the sponge is a cell. So think about everything that your mother was exposed to, everything that your father was exposed to, every household product you had growing up. Every time you spilled gasoline on yourself when you were learning to pump gas. You know what I mean? Like before you stopped smoking, like all that stuff's still inside of you. So what color would that fluid be in that clear plastic container right now? Just think to yourself. Would it be nice and crystal clear? Right? And then put that sponge into there, and I bring it up, and guess what happens? That cell actually will replicate and become another cell. So if I was to take a pair of scissors, cut it in half, now that cell, I put it down there, what color are those cells? Well, whatever color your body was when they replicated. And then those cells are going to replicate, and those cells are going to replicate, and they're still stuck in that same color, whatever color it might be, pink, red, black, green, dark purple, brown, sludgy color. And then a lot of times what happens is people are like, I'm going to start doing something different. I'm going to start eating right. So they start to create a new environment in their body. And they take this nice clear water over here of your body, and they take the same 6 cells, they put them into that clear water, and those same 6 cells are replicating in that area. And all it does is cloud the water there. So they're not at least putting bad stuff in, but sometimes what we have to do is we have to take the toxins out. And that's going to be that's your number one thing, is to stop putting in. I don't want you to detox. I don't want you to focus on detox until you stop retoxing them, okay? You got to change your environment, not just for the environment in your body, but the environment in the world. Like, take responsibility for the world and the other people that live here. Because if we don't buy that stuff, I mean, look at like organic, right? Just go back 10 years ago. Did anybody buy organic 10 years ago? Like, Whole Foods wasn't even there really 10 years ago or 15 years ago. Nobody even really knew what it was. Organic, now everybody wants to buy organic. Nobody wants GMOs. Like 10 years ago, they didn't care about GMOs on there. So that's why we do detox. And really somebody's like, well, how often do I detox? Well, how toxic have you been? Does that make sense? Like, some of us need to keep on pulling out the sponges, squeezing the sponge, and putting it in there. Does that make sense? We've got to squeeze the sponge to get the stuff out of our body, to get the color out, so that as we're putting new water in, eventually it'll become clean. And that's what the detox is about. And that's why we put it in there. So as we're going through there, we're getting you a good, clean source of protein that you can start your day off with, so you don't have to make decisions and try to figure out what your day is going to look like. We're going to be detoxing as we go through this process there. And then what we really want to focus on is not just getting it out of your cells, but getting it out of your body. It has like fiber in there. It has things that will actually help move the intestines and to balance it out. And then we need to also, guess what? Have you ever wondered when you burn fat, where does it go? Like literally, like seriously, like okay, I just lost like 100 pounds. Where did it go? Well, it actually comes out your mouth. Like all the residues eventually come out your mouth and through your breath. So guess what happens if somebody's not trying to move their body and they're not breathing, and they're like, I just can't lose weight. Well, there's probably a reason. You got to open your mouth and you got to breathe it out. Okay. So look at this. If you sit for 2 hours watching TV, you have a 23% increased risk. Two extra hours compared to the average population, your rate of obesity goes up 23%. Just by 2 hours a day. Interesting there. Your risk of diabetes goes up 14%. Well, so just walk for 2 hours. 2 hours of sitting at work, 5% increase in obesity, 7% in diabetes. Standing or walking around at home, you actually reduce your risk of all these things just by 10%. An hour a day of brisk walking, you can reduce your obesity risk by 24%. See, what happens is that because you're using the carbohydrates there, you start to balance out. It's about being sedentary. Is not about losing weight. It's about the chemistry in your body. You have to keep your body working right there. So the more sedentary we are, the worse off that we are there. So that's why in our office we do something different. Like I honestly do not have the ability or the time. I check that. I do not want to take the time to spend an hour and a half a day exercising. I have greater things in this world that I want to do than spend an hour and a half a day exercising there. And the big thing that we want to understand is how our body works. So when we do on Saturdays and Mondays and Wednesdays, we do our Max T3 workouts out there. It's about changing something called growth hormone there. So what happens is, I'm going to take you through this process. Growth hormone it triggers our growth during childhood, but it's also important for building muscle and bone and cutting fat in adults, okay? So that's why a kid gets big, because of growth hormone. 30 seconds of maximal exercise, it will increase your growth hormone by 1,000%. Think about that. Maximum exercise. So when they do maximum exercise, they'll do 30 seconds on, 10 seconds off, 30 seconds on, 10 seconds off, and they do that for less than 10 minutes. It'll increase somebody's growth hormone levels by 1,000%. Growth hormone, that's the anti-aging hormone. That's the hormone that people use. Turn on the air conditioning. That will actually repair the fat in the cells there. Will actually burn the fat while you sleep. The only 2 times that you actually make growth hormone are when you're sleeping and when you're doing maximum exercise there. So what it does though is growth hormone. Remember LPL that we talked about? It'll actually put the brakes on that. It'll actually prevent LPL from taking energy from your bloodstream and turning it into fat. And the opposite, though, happens when we're doing aerobic exercise. It stimulates LPL to take energy and put it into fat. That's frustrating, isn't it? Like we just spent like an hour exercising when we could just spend 10 minutes exercising and get a significantly different benefit there. Repeat, this one right here, they just did repeated sprints. They did 30-second sprints, 30-second break for 10 minutes. It reduced the LPL activity by 65%. Think about that. Like everybody can walk as fast or sprint as fast as they can, 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, for 10 minutes, and reduce the ability of their body to take energy and put it into fat. And then if you do that, guess what you're going to have? You're going to have more energy. The one thing that I hear from everybody that comes to Surge on Saturday with me, I come to Surge on Saturday because it completely makes the rest of my day. I always have more energy after I work out. Nobody's ever sat on the couch first thing in the morning, read the newspaper, and kept on eating their bonbons and be like, glad I didn't exercise because I want to conserve my energy for the rest of the day. Those are the days you never get out of your pajamas, right? peak glucose response is the best predictor of post-exercise fat utilization, which means that they find that when we have the growth hormone up there, when you do the maximum contraction, you will actually burn the fat, prevent that LPL from going onto the receptor for up to 2 days after you do a high-intensity workout. How cool is that? So like it's like you're not exercising, but you're actually losing weight. That's pretty cool. Did your doctor tell you that besides me? No. Why didn't they tell you that? Because like if you're fat, they say just exercise and get on the treadmill and go for an hour, and then here's your diet, and watch out for the fat. Make sure you don't eat fat because fat makes you fat, right? Every 10% increase in home sitting time has been associated with a 1.2 inch increase, larger waist circumference. This waist circumference is your greatest predictor for whether you're going to have a heart attack. So what you do is you take a tape measure, put it from fingertip to fingertip, right? And then you wrap it around your waist. If your waist is larger than the dimension from fingertip to fingertip, you're in crisis. You're absolutely in crisis right now. And so that's a big thing, that we got to get that ratio down. But check it out. All we have to do is get our sitting time. So like maybe like you just surge for, run in place for 30 seconds there at that time. So that's why we do T3. We have the video. Like that's why we were getting the videos there. You can go online. There's a code on the back. You can buy the codes there. You can do it at home there. Online they have like 40 times more exercises than they actually are on the video there. So you can use it on DVD or you can use it online. You can come to surge classes there. Like look, if you can't even figure it out, like as far as like just too much like driving or whatever, well, I'm going to challenge you. 30 seconds as fast as you can. Stop for 30 seconds. 30 seconds as fast as you can, stop for 30 seconds. And do that 10 times. And then you're done. And see what happens in 30 days. Just see what happens in 30 days there. So I also, in the back of your packet, I actually put some workouts in there too. If you wanted to try something different, if you wanted to keep it simple, I put 12 workouts there. And so 12 workouts means that you can basically choose any one of these workouts and do them. There are different types of workouts. There are different types of surge workouts. Feel free to do them. Play with them. Enjoy the workout there. As long as you start enjoying it and start pushing yourself, you don't have to be perfect, right? And I think one of the things that what I want you to be today is I want you to take action. See, people take action for 2 reasons. Number one, out of inspiration or desperation. Does it make sense? Like people actually will do things because they're desperate for a change or they're inspired for something. Desperate for a change is your fixed mindset. Inspired to do something is your growth mindset there. I want you to be inspired to be able to make those changes there. And that's the last thing that was in the what did I call it? Bundle. Thank you. See, I might have to have some more Vegas today. Is Max Fit. I told you there was 2 things that will actually raise that LPL level there. And one of them was cortisol. And so with the Max Fit what it does is it's an adaptogenic. There's adaptogenic herbs in there will help your body deal with different stresses and to regulate blood sugar. For some of us that are in crisis, that some of us want to accelerate a weight loss, the Max Fit is a big key because it helps regulate our blood sugar levels and helps regulate our cortisol levels. Do you have to stay on that for the rest of your life? No. In fact, I wouldn't want you to stay on the rest of your life. In fact, I only want you to be on essential things like vitamin D and omega-3s and your probiotics. Those are, for me, are the big keys there. But at the same time, a lot of times people are like, well, what about my B vitamins? Well, here's interesting. All the meat that you ever need has the B vitamins in there. But when people eat tons of carbohydrates, your B vitamins are needed to process the carbohydrates. So that's why so many people are B vitamin deficient, because they have such high carbohydrate concentrations there. Well, people are sick right now, and they're like, well, I'm just taking my vitamin C. Guess what? You can't get vitamin C into your cells if there's sugar in your in your bloodstream there. Did you know that? They have the same receptor. So when you're trying to drink orange juice to get your vitamin C levels up, all you manage to do is to get vitamin C floating around your bloodstream, and your blood insulin level goes up. And oh, by the way, the sugar will actually suppress your immune system by 75% for up to 8 hours after you consume it. Oh, my son's sick. I gave him a popsicle. That's good. You just made him sicker. All right. So that's why we do that. So then you have really the bundle. And this is what I'm going to suggest. We have the plant protein for people that don't like that don't like like the dairy, or they might be sensitive to it. But this is an A2 cow, so basically the people that are sensitive to dairy typically aren't sensitive to this. But there's also a plant protein. If you like vanilla or chocolate, you can get that. But this is the last one that I want to show you as far as videos. And it's really powerful because I need you to understand how I see toxicity in our environment right now.
What if this baby is already irreversibly programmed to be a fat 40-year-old? What if something is happening to our children prenatally that is programming all of us to be heavier than we should be? What if, over generations, we are actually altering our species' ability to stay slim? No matter how hard we try. Scientists studying obesity have begun to suspect that there's something more at play here than just calories in and calories out.
There are chemical agents that we encounter which can change how our body responds to calories.
If you give low doses, you do end up with fat mice.
New evidence suggests that what's making us fat is not just modern lifestyles, but also modern chemicals.
We're getting programmed to be fat. When we start looking at even the people that is, they're saying that the whole BMI curve is changing there, and they say it's an environmental trigger. Something's happening in the environment. So we look at, the biggest thing that I run into is BPA, the bisphenols there. Those are toxic. We find them in our papers and our coffee cup lids. Like, you'll never see me like drinking, like if I'm gonna have a Starbucks, I'm not gonna drink it through my coffee cup lid. Just so you know. And the reason being is I'm literally heating up that plastic and pulling in toxins into my body. Why would we ever do that? Why would we, just like when we start looking at it's in canned foods and we look at the dental sealants that we put on our teeth there, toilet papers that have it there, credit card receipts that we rub our hands on all the time there, and then we put it into our mouth, and eat there. And what the BPA does, it's in the plastic water bottles, in their kids' water bottles, and what they're starting to find is there's powder, as the plastic starts to break down, powders are going all over the planet, and so our kids are crawling around the houses, and it's in the flame retardants, and it's going into their mouths, and so our kids are becoming bioaccumulating like more and more toxins there. But look at some of the reasons why. Insulin resistance. Somebody's like, I'm doing the right things, I'm exercising, I'm resistant, but they're still toxic. Well, of course they're going to have problems. That's why we have to look at it as a 5 essential approach. It's not just about food anymore. It's like we live in a world where there's 5 key problems there. Chromosome damage, egg damage. How many people know somebody with infertility? It's a toxicity issue most times. We started looking at prostate growth, early puberty. Like you look at the kids now, they're going through puberty, like armpit hair and chest hair and breasts in 4th and 5th grade. It's ridiculous. And so when we start looking at it, the mechanisms and actors, what are they? Well, basically, pesticides, herbicides. We talked about there's already 600 pounds of pesticides every single year. Plastics, and pharmaceutical drugs have them in there. Those are all endocrine disruptors. Those are all the things that are destroying our hormones. Because remember, we talked about it wasn't calories in, calories out. It was weight loss is a hormonal issue. And if we disrupt the hormones in any way, shape, or form, we're going to have obesity there. If we're toxic, our body will try to create more fat cells to pull the toxins out there, and then those toxins will actually regulate things differently. DDT, that's been banned, it's almost the same chemical makeup as estradiol, and like the estrogens. So when people they look at people that have never been exposed to estrogen, children that have never been exposed to estrogen, like 7 out of 10 of them actually have DDT in their bloodstream right there, which interferes with those estrogen receptors. The modern wheat, we think that that's the glyphosate there. I already told you that, there's the video of the guy, they put a video of this guy. He's a senior vice president of Monsanto. And I want you to hear what he has to say.
Do not believe that glyphosate in Argentina is causing increases in cancer. You can drink a whole quart of it and it won't hurt you. It's,
You want to drink some? We have some here.
I'd be happy to, actually, but not really, but
Not really?
I know it wouldn't hurt me.
If you say so, I have some
No,
glyphosate.
I'm not stupid.
Oh, okay, so you
No, but I know
so it's dangerous,
I know.
right?
No, people try to commit suicide with it
No,
and
but
fail
let's-
fairly
let's-
regularly.
Tell the truth.
It's not dangerous to humans. No, it's not.
So are you ready to drink one glass of
No,
glyphosate?
I'm not an idiot. Interview me about golden rice. That's what I'm talking about.
I'm not an idiot. Really?
Wow.
Like that's what it's okay to put that into the food that we eat on our food system on a regular basis, where we put 6 billion pounds of it into the environment every single year. So we look at the Frankenfood with all the preservatives in there. We look at the milkshakes and the things. You don't eat something that you can't understand the words in there, because if you can't understand the words, your body can't understand what it is either. When we start looking at Lunchables, $500 million a year just for Lunchables to kill our kids and to give them obesity. It's got the trifecta. It's got the trans fats in there. It's got the carbs in there. It's got the bad proteins in there. It's got everything that we need to make our kids sick, and we will give them almost $500 billion a year to do that. We start looking at food additives. Food additives have been linked to all types of neurologic and behavioral disorders. When it's red dye number 3 and you don't know what it is, it knows it doesn't care what you know or what you don't know. We have to watch out for the additives. If you can't say it, don't eat it. Does anybody remember when I had that apple sitting on the T-bar here? Sat there for almost 2 months. There was literally an apple like this. It was a non-organic apple, and it sat there for over 2 months, right on my T-bar right here. 2 months later, it looked exactly the same. Apples are things that are supposed to break down. Does that make sense? It's not preserved. It's not a mummy. Like, there's something that's interfering with it. And so that's what we have to look at. If your body, if the world can't digest it, why would you not be able to digest it? Like, nature's supposed to break things down just like you. So if it's not organic, it's going to interfere with you. When we look at cancer is preventable, well, what I want you to understand is that we have to look that it's the environment that's the problem. The environment that we put ourselves into. Now, this is the last part that I'm going to go into, and I promise that where we go into, but basically, there is 2 paths. You're going to have to choose what path that you take in your life. You can take the path of least resistance. You can go take the path of it's too hard. The path of I don't want to do my readings, I don't want to do the work, I don't want to become a student again, I just get overwhelmed there. I can take the path of the fixed mindset path, or I can take the growth mindset path. I can take the path of possibility, I can take the path of creating a compelling future, I can take the path of actually writing my goals down and reviewing them 2 times a day there. I can make targets on a daily basis and move myself forward. I can take the path of not only focusing on myself, but my family and the people around us. I can take the path of teaching people what we learned today and then actually applying it. Or I can take the path of you coming up to me and say, Dr. Osmond, that was a really good information that you gave me today. And then when I see you on Monday, I say, what did you learn? You're like, oh, yeah, I knew you were going to ask me that question. That's the worst thing that you can tell me. I forgot everything that you told me. Because the average person is going to forget about something unless you reread everything. Literally, you kind of wasted your time. Like, it was kind of like an entertainment thing. It's Super Bowl's tomorrow. That'll be, it's entertainment also. It's just like the pregame for the Super Bowl there. But there's 2 roads traveled, and I took the road less traveled. That's what I want you to do. Is I want you to take the road less traveled. It was the one that used to be traveled, but this is what happens is the more we walk that path, the deeper and wider it becomes, and the more people that will follow. And then it'll become the road most traveled there. I do want to show you one last video, and this is, put this together. touched on this earlier, and the reason why I put that up there, and it makes me angry every time I see it, because at what point does a doctor say, it's a good time for us to start prescribing heroin to our patients? And I said, when does it start becoming common sense that we know that we have something incredibly addictive and we'll prescribe it to our patients? And I'll tell you why. Because nothing else works. Nothing else works. They find that back surgeries don't work. The people that have back surgeries, in the long-term studies, they're worse off than people that never had the surgery in the first place. They find that the physical therapy with the ultrasound and all those things, they find that the steroid injections don't work because it does more damage. Everything that they do, they have an onslaught of people with spinal issues, and they find out that it doesn't work because the whole paradigm is, how can we control pain? How can we make people happy? And if just by controlling pain, if that worked, then we wouldn't be in this epidemic right now. But it doesn't work. And it's insanity. And if you think that prescribing opioids, like an incredibly addictive painkiller for somebody to manage pain, that actually shows that when you take it for a week or more, actually increases your sensitivity to pain. Literally, they find that when somebody takes it, it doesn't decrease your pain, it actually increases your sensitivity to pain. You don't care about it as much, but you actually feel more pain after a week of taking it. Then you have to increase it. No wonder why it's addictive, because it's just like a heroin addict. Do they take less heroin? No, they get less and less, and they need more and more there. Same thing as with diabetes. Same thing with any other healthcare condition. Does anybody ever take less blood pressure medication? Because we're going the wrong way. We're going the wrong way. We're going the wrong way. Because what we forgot is we forgot about the master, right? We forgot that we're magnificent. We forgot that we're intelligent. We forgot that these people right here, what's the one thing that they all have in common? They all died in drug deaths. They died with their music still left inside of them. They were looking to the wrong place for their source. They were looking for something different that we will never know what was still inside of them. How many people here know somebody that should have been here that died with the music still inside of them? Right? We all know people. Like, how many people know somebody that we wish that they had heard this information, or our parents or our grandparents, or going back decades? That's why my job is, I can't be here for everybody, but my job for you, and my number one thing that I asked you, is that you go out and teach somebody else. Because if we have 70 people here right now, and all of you go out and you teach somebody else, just one person, and you ask them to teach somebody else what we learned today, it's going to have a multiplicative effect. That's how we make a difference in the world. Like, that's fine. I don't mind renting out, like, the SAP Center for our next makeover, right? Like I'll do it, whatever it takes, but I can't do it without you. And the reason why these people died is because they forgot where the power lies. Your power, God put the most amazing healing power in your body and your brain. And it sends messages down literally to every single tissue, cell, and organ in your body. Never, ever forget that. All the intelligence in your body flows through these. So if I give you broccoli and we have and I have the pressure on the nerves that are going to the intestines, the only thing that you have is you're like skinny and sick. Does that make sense? You're not getting the nutrients there. Why else would I actually adjust somebody? Why would we care about the nervous system? Either having pressure on your nervous system is a good thing or it's a bad thing. Either you're going to function at a higher level and fulfill your potential and live your music, or you're not. It's a black or white issue there. It's not an issue of convenience. Breathing is not an issue of convenience. It's an absolute necessity. A clear neurologic connection is an absolute necessity there. Have you ever noticed that that's why I get the most excited when I talk about the nervous system? Like I kind of get a little bit excited about it, like, insulin. But when I'm talking about the nervous system, you don't release insulin without your nervous system. When your nervous system's under stress, you're going to release insulin no matter what you eat. So if we're going to talk about it, I don't know if you guys noticed, we actually changed the orders of the essentials. It's not max mind anymore. The first essential is now nervous system, the core of chiropractic. The core of getting your nervous system checked. I don't care if you want to. I was going to put a study up there that talked about how when people actually did nothing else to lose weight but getting adjusted, they actually lost weight compared to people that didn't. In the same study, they had to eat the same things, and people that got adjusted did better. Not because it's a therapy for weight loss. It's that anytime your body functions at a higher level, it's going to regulate itself better, and it's going to work better there. So that's why, you know, when Vanessa was talking about having people that had never got their spines checked in this office, why we wanted to get them checked, it wasn't because we wanted to adjust them. It was we want to make sure that their nervous system was clear. And if you don't know, look, if your mom had a blocked heart, think about your mother right now. If she had a blocked artery to her heart, wouldn't you want to know? Like if you had a blocked artery in your heart, wouldn't you want to know before you had a heart attack? And if we're waiting until we have pain, we're waiting until we have problems, and then we get into that system of that leads us up to thinking that oxycodone is a good idea there. It's a completely different way of thinking. We take care of ourselves before we have problems. We find the hidden health problems that we don't know that we have, address them. We find the small tumors before they become metastatic tumors. Does that make sense? We don't wait till we have metastasis throughout our whole body. And so I think that's why we have the 5 essentials. We have our exam. Make sure if you're a guest, make sure you get signed up for that. That's why we have dinner with the docs there. Make sure we have our upcoming events there. Like, make sure that you get signed up. The more that you get plugged in, the more that you're going to be able to engage in this process. Make sure that you do your challenge. Like, just do it. Just try it. See how your body likes. And I guarantee if you're not perfect and you keep going, you're going to get better results than if you're not perfect and you quit. Okay? And I guarantee that if you make it through this challenge, you're going to see yourself as a winner, and you're going to start doing winner things. And you're starting to rebuilding yourself and building yourself up there. So as we leave, I just want to remind you that if you want to change the world,
here's to the crazy ones.
We got to start doing something different.
The misfits.
If you don't like
Rebels.
what we are, we just got to change it.
Troublemakers.
I want you guys to
Round
be
pegs in the
misfits. I want
square
you to be
holes.
weird. Right?
Ones
I want you
who
to
see
be
things
abnormal.
differently.
Because the normal person's
They're
sick
not
and
fond
they're
of
depressed.
rules, and they have
I
no
want you
respect
to
for the
see
status
your
quo.
future as compelling rather than
You
scary.
can quote them,
I want
disagree
you
with them,
to be able to have the time and
glorify
energy to
or
love these
vilify
people.
them. But the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones,
That's
we
you.
see genius.
I see the genius in you.
Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
That's you. You guys are the geniuses. Thank you.